Hello there, and welcome to the first ever edition of A.M Sports Network. I'm your host, Aaron Niles. Joining me today's segment is Nathaniel Hubbard, our resident sports fanatic and Leafs fan.
Hello.
So as you all know, no Canadian team are slated to make this year's playoffs. Are you quite surprised by this at all?
To be honest, I am actually quite surprised. Going into the season, I thought the majority of the Canadian teams were going to be bad. Vancouver Canucks have been going in the wrong direction. The Calgary Flames, I thought, were one and done last season. They need more time. However, the Montreal Canadiens have been a big surprise. Carey Price got injured back in November, and the wheels sort of just came off. And a team that everyone thought was going to be contending for a cup is now contending for a top draft pick.
So if you had to pick one team that was the most surprising or disappointing this season, would you pick the Montreal Canadiens?
I would definitely pick the Montreal Canadiens. The other teams that have been disappointing, the Oilers haven't taken any steps forward. The Winnipeg Jets took a step back, but going from cup contender to Austin Matthews contender, not a good year.
I'd agree that they did have a very disappointing year, but I think Calgary Flames actually the most surprising. Last year they made it to the second round of the playoffs. They look like with the addition of Dougie Hamilton that they'd be taking the next step to the upper echelon of the NHL elite, and it just didn't happen. They have had the world's worst goaltending this year, and outside that, I don't think any of their teams were very surprising. Vancouver's, their core's aged. It seems like they need to go and rebuild. Leafs are obviously rebuilding. Oilers are always just going to suck. It just seems like I never believe this forever.
I believe.
As nice as the Jet storyline making the playoffs last year was, it seemed like they overachieved and it just came back down to earth. So moving on to the actual playoffs and teams making it, is there a matchup that you want to see?
Matchup I want to see. I want to see Chicago against St. Louis. The last couple of years that they've hit each other, they've met each other in the playoffs. St. Louis has always been, they can do it. They can pull off the upset. They can bring down the champs. And the Chicago Blackhawks have just taken them out. Like, not even in 7 games. I think they've gone to 6 games the last time they met up. So I want to see the St. Louis Blues get in, and I want to see them beat the Chicago Blackhawks.
I mean, if there's ever going to be a time where St. Louis can actually get over the hump and exercise their demons, I think it's this year. Chicago's still obviously a good team. They have a great core, but they're weaker. Their depth is weaker. I think they're vulnerable. But for a matchup I want to see personally, I want to see Washington versus Pittsburgh. Crosby versus Ovechkin again. Yeah. That's just a classic matchup. Arguably the two best NHL players, the marquee faces of the NHL as a whole, facing off against. And Washington's always kind of disappointed in the playoffs. I think this is the year where they need to make a statement and make it to the finals. Which, speaking of which, if you had to pick any team, East or West, who you think should be the favorite to make it to the finals, who do you think it is and why?
Well, you just stole my bid on the Washington Capitals, so I'm not going to go with them. I'm going to go with the St. Louis Blues. Hitchcock is on the hot seat. If they don't win a series, he's probably gone. The St. Louis Blues have been a regular season contender for the last half decade. They have been in the top of the league in goals for and goals against. So they have a really good regular season team, but they always crash and burn in the playoffs. And I think if they don't make an impact this year, someone's going to pull the trigger and they're going to start retooling the core. So,
do you have another team in the East that you'd think would be favored to make it there, or are you going to pick Washington again as well?
Yeah, I'm going to take Washington. A lot of Game 7 demons. They've made it to something like 11 or 12 Game 7s. They've won 2 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they need to.
I'm going to cheat a little bit and pick 2 teams in the West, I think. Just because the West has been dominated for the past 10 years by either Chicago or the Kings. They've made the last 6 years in a row, those 2 teams have made the finals.
Sounds right.
Yeah. So I'm going to pick 2 teams I think would actually be able to make it. I'm going to pick Nashville Predators and the Anaheim Ducks. And the reason I'm going to do it is for the same reason. They both have a lot of depth on defense. Nashville's always been a very good defensive team with good goaltending. They never had offensive firepower. I think this year they've shown they have more offense than usual. And the Ducks, their defense is so stacked. And I think that they're the favorite to come out of the Pacific Division. They're ahead of both the Kings and the Sharks. And I think they're favored against them. Outside of that, I don't see another team being able to beat them if they play up to their offensive capabilities. Outside of that, in the East, Washington obviously is the favorite. I think they have 114 points right now. Next closest is 97 or 98. They're way ahead of all the other teams, and there's honestly no excuse for them to come up short again as they usually do, which is great because it's going to be the next topic of conversation. Because do you think there's a team out there, whether it be because of personal legacy of a player, a coach, or just a general franchise and dysfunction, that needs to step up in the playoffs and show something?
Well, I think we've touched base on Washington. They have their Game 7 demons. St. Louis have not been good in the playoffs. I'm I'm going to go a bit off board, and I'm going to say the Pittsburgh Penguins really need to bring it this year. For the last decade, the future has been being sold for now. They have Sidney Crosby, they have Malkin, they have Fleury, they have Letang. They want to build a core around these guys to win now. And we've seen draft picks and prospects, besides a few protected prospects, just going out the window. And they're getting very little in return for the future. The Phil Kessel trade was just the last of these recent trades. If they don't win now, they're not going to have another chance. And they're going to be in the basement as soon as Crosby and Malkin stop producing.
I think Pittsburgh's a good choice because obviously they did sort of make a move to go all in with the Phil Kessel trade. It seemed like on paper this was a team that should have been contending for a top seed in the East instead of where they were for the longest time trying to just get a wild card spot. But I think the team that has the most to lose and in a sense gain in the postseason is the San Jose Sharks. This is a team that when you think of playoff joker, it's the Sharks. They have that aura against them because they always come up short. And this is arguably the last year where their window is still open. Thornton and Marlowe are getting up there in age. Even Pavelski is there. So I think they need to compete and do well this season, especially since during the trade deadline, they made trades that mortgaged some draft picks to get some players where it seemed like they realized that their window was closing and this was the year to go in. So I think they need to make a good push and at least make it to the Western Conference Finals, if not the finals.
I agree with that, yeah. Picking up Reimer, picking up Polak, they're making pushes. They're making a push to go deep. Let's see if it happens. I've always liked Thornton. I've always liked Marlowe. Hopefully they get a shot at it.
Yep. Well, that's all we have here for A.M Sports Network, where we just talked about NHL. Stay tuned for more videos and more sports.